eligibility? For example, do you look at bank statements as to whether they're getting other income from assets, shares or whatever?
Yes, that's correct. So that's the information that we received from MSD, that's their criteria for assessing accommodation supplements. Under our criteria for a tenant in one of our pensioner housing units, those were already in place. We can adjust those, obviously. But when an applicant makes an application to go on the waiting list for our pensioner housing units, those are all the things that we are checking for them. There have been instances, for example, where an individual has just sold their house, so they're sitting on quite a bit of cash that they can actually accommodate themselves elsewhere. So they would need to not have that in order to be eligible in one of our pensioner housing units. So that's why it's there.
So they would be ineligible if that was the case.
Yep.
If someone has $30,000 in savings, they would be ineligible for the accommodation supplement, but they are eligible for a council flat. They're the ones that will be hammered, won't they?
Yes, that will affect them.
Thanks, Councillor Johns. Councillor Gilmore.
Thanks very much, Your Worship, and Fontaine, thanks very much for all the work. I can't imagine it would have been easy running through it, so I'm really grateful for what you've done and what you've presented. I've always been really clear that this activity must be self-funding, but in having a look at the options that have come through, I just got a feeling that perhaps we've gone too far. And when I say that we've gone too far, still I think that we do have to make sure this is self-funding, but I wonder if we're trying to get out of deficit a little bit too quickly. And if we could be looking at some options with that. Looking at that chart, we were going to be coming out of deficit at around sort of year 2, year 3, but wondering what those figures might look like if that line sort of gets us to that point at around year 5. I don't know what that impact might be. I'm also really quite conscious that things are changing in interest rate space and in some of our other costs. But when I look at council, and one of the great things of providing social housing is some councils subsidise them, which I'm not in favour of, but councils can often provide that facility cheaper than the private sector because there's not a profit motive when it comes to the provision of housing. We've got economies of scale, we've got access to cheaper lending, and we have the ability to have more expertise perhaps than the mum and dad landlord. And I suppose what jumped out at me is when we look at the proposal, it is virtually going to take it up to market rent. So I know it's a little bit under market rent, but when you look at the bands, it does fall within the market rent side. So wondering if there is an opportunity maybe for us to be reviewing how we're delivering the service. Are there any efficiencies we can make? But my key bit is it absolutely must be self-funding, but maybe we can come out of our deficit a little bit slower. When we look at papers, and often we have to make all sorts of decisions on things. This one, when I saw it, it just didn't feel right to me, and I'm really concerned about the large jump in the material impact that might have on some of our residents. So that's where I sit.
Thanks, Councillor Gilmore. I'll just go to Fontaine for a response and then Councillor Franklin.
Thank you, Councillor Gilmore. I understand all of that completely. And consideration was taken to where the market is actually sitting, and we still sit below that. For example, a 2-bedroom unit at the lower quartile, and those are the only figures that I have used and taken into consideration, is always at the lower end of the market. And for a 2-bedroom unit, that is at 380 at the moment. My only concern that I would like to present to council is that the longer we drag it out, the risk gets higher, given that the units are 40 to 50 years old. So the renewals that need to be done in those units, there are compulsory ones, when we look at healthy homes compliance. So we have our heat pumps, our range hoods, our ventilation in our bathrooms, the gutterings, those have to be, the insulation as well. They're a must-have. And all of those are going to come up for renewal. So the longer we drag our deficit out, the impact is going to come at some stage too.
Got the Chief Executive with one comment and I will come back to you, Councillor Gilmore.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. Just want to also point out, and I'll try to find where these figures are, but remember also that these figures do cost the maintenance, do cover the maintenance costs of those pensioner flats, so the lawn mowing and rubbish and bits and pieces as well. And I think I'm looking over at you, Fontaine. I think that was around $20 per week or something, roughly, or fortnight as well. So you just want to point that out. So we are sitting under it, but you're right, there's some tough decisions for you guys to make.
Thanks, Councillor Gilmore.
Thanks very much, and Fontaine, for your comments. And I 100% appreciate those and see where they come from. And I think from the Chief Executive, I think that is an important thing that we do have to remember, is there are some other services provided that do come at a cost. I suppose, jumping back to the speed in which we're coming out, totally agree with the concept. However, even with those risks, wondering if there is an opportunity for us to be moving through, trying to come out of that deficit slightly slower. And when I think of private landlords, I'm a private landlord, and I certainly carry a mortgage, and I'm in deficit for what I'm doing on my property. Would it smooth out, or I guess lessen the impact on some of those people if we didn't try and get out of our deficit so quickly? Still had a very clear trajectory on how we were going to get out of it, making sure that those risks are looked at. But this is a really sharp jump. And Fontaine, you are doing this at the direction of council through that workshop, and I'm really grateful for that work. But I still just wonder if we've gone slightly too quickly.
Thanks, Councillor Gilmore. Councillor Franklin.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thanks, Fontaine, for the report. And following on from what Councillor Scott has just said, as a suggestion, would it be possible, and not too much admin, to divide that increase over the 3 years and do it incrementally $20 a year, because that's what it works out to. And that way it's not suddenly $60, which is to anybody that's living on such a limited income. It's just an opportunity, if it's not an administrative nightmare. That's the only thing. Thank you.
Thanks. Councillor Chase and then Councillor Woods.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Tracy. With Brian talking about the level of services that is also provided with these flats, could it be also a way of us being able to withdraw some of those services to reduce the rent? If it's costing each rent an extra $20 to have all those added services, like the lawn mowing or the rubbish and all of that stuff. If we say we will up your rent this, but we are taking away these services to keep your rent at $20 cheaper per week, is that a possibility? Because they will then have to pay for that service themselves.
It absolutely is a possibility, but then it makes it harder for management of the common spaces because it's open, it's not fenced off. Tenants don't have a clear boundary for the maintenance work around the units. So it wouldn't be an easy task, that's for sure, because you would still need to divvy up how much that's going to cost and get everybody's on board to agree to having, to paying that. And if it doesn't get paid, where does that land?
Thanks, Fontaine. Councillor Wards.
Thank you, Your Worship, and great analysis here, Fontaine. Really appreciate that. One thing that hasn't been talked about yet is the recommendation of the removal of the cap. Now, I wasn't around when such a strategy was introduced, but I'm picking that the principle behind it was to allow some way of ensuring that we recognise that council is in the provision of, as Your Worship, you alluded to, some form of social housing and or recognition that we do want to have some recognition of the level of need in our community. So that the recommendations in either options well and truly surpasses that cap. What's the risk if we take that cap off? Does it pretty much allow, I'm just trying to think of what other strategies in our financial would allow some form of control that we just don't go completely mad and increase beyond. So, I mean, the highest one you've recommended here is I think 42, is that what it was? 42%. So we've well and truly breached the proposed cap. I guess what I'm asking from you, Fontaine, and perhaps from Sarah, is what are the risks in us taking that away? Do we need to set it at a higher level, or do we do without a cap altogether? Big picture stuff, sorry.
Yeah, in the ideal world, it would be great to look at it a bit deeper. I do see other opportunities where we should investigate and see whether we can reduce those costs in this. For example, insurance. There could be some savings in that space that will lessen the impact. But the fees and charges come back here.
Yeah.
So the final approval sits here. We can recommend whatever we think and present all the information for you to make an informed decision, but the ultimate decision sits here. So that's where your protection is.
Yep. So just further to that, Your Worship, then. So the principle of a cap is a guideline to say, look, we recognise that we are providing a service that a lot of other councils don't even do, that the guideline of we set that cap so we're always mindful. It's always going to be a little bit lower than, whatever. But I guess there's two aspects in the recommendation is, you're asking us to remove the cap completely. The other debate that we've had, and I concur with a number of my fellow councillors, that we need to ensure that year by year we are putting money aside to because 50 years old, they're all going to come not crashing down, but you know what I'm saying, they're all going to want to be updated pretty much at the same time. So the principles behind the decision that I will make today is ensuring that we do grow, we get back over the start line, and we do have something in our reserves to be able to ensure that the quality of the housing we are providing is compliant, and it is something that the tenants can be proud of being in a council facility. So for me, it has to be self-funding. I'm challenged every time that the ratepayers are being asked to contribute, that they had been told in principle this is a self-funding activity. So challenging as it is, for me the issue was, do we reset the cap? You're saying no, let's just take it away completely. And I hear the debate around, is that the trajectory, or is that the trajectory about getting us out of? But I think you have laid down a very insightful range of options for us to consider. So thank you for that, Fontaine. Thanks, Your Worship.
Thanks, Councillor Wards. Councillor Wallace?
Yeah, thank you, Chair, Mayor Tracy. I suppose really what we're doing, it is a hard one, but we need to address it, because if we don't address it, we're just kicking the can further down the road. And as everyone's alluded to, costs only go up. So, yeah, it would nice to do it more gradually, but then, as what Councillor Wards just alluded to, the ratepayers of Dannevirke are subsidising people of pension of houses of Dannevirke. Tararua District, sorry. Thank you, Peter. Tararua District. The question I ask, with the MSD contribution, that's not these calculated figures here, is it? If it was taken off it. It is. No, because that's what I mean. So these figures here are the figures with the new calculation with the increase, right? And it says there in 6.4.2, the Tararua District is a categorised Area 4. The MSD website provides estimates of the accommodation supplement rate. So I would like to see that figure put onto those figures, and that would give us a true figure of what it's going to go up to. Can we do that?
It's through their proposed rent options.
Yeah, it is there.
I've missed it.
No, it's on the other page. Yeah, it's there.
So they are the figures that should be read out. No?
No, sorry. No, unfortunately, we can't, because not every tenant is eligible for a $70 subsidy. So it's unfair to present the rents as being less the accommodation subsidy.
Thanks. I did make inquiry just to see whether I could find out what that level of income-related rent subsidy with our pensioners was within the Tararua District, but not in the time frame. Not able to do that, because I think Councillor Johns is right. Somebody can be just over that threshold and not qualify. It will be tough. I did do some calculations. It's a good piece of work. This needed to be done. We've been saying that pensioner housing needed to be self-funding and have had concerns for some time. So I do acknowledge that, and it's a tough space to work in, because your team are dealing with these people every single day, and we do provide a really, really good service. I know that the staff care a lot, and we do go above and beyond, is what I would say. I went back and sort of put myself in that position, and went back to using, after-tax figures. So, if you're on your own at $538 and then you've got $250 rent, if you get the subsidy, that takes it up to $343. If you don't, you're back down at $273. So that's where I think what you're saying, Peter, comes in, quite clearly. But one of those pensioner houses, the power alone is $50 a week as well. So you're really starting to chip. And I was trying to just work out what expenses might be for, phone and medical and food. It certainly doesn't leave a lot, but actually I also get it on the other side of the coin where we've got people in Pahiatua who are dearly wanting to get into a pensioner housing unit because the rent that they're paying at market value is just is far steeper. So they are pretty good value at that compared to what you can get into the other markets. But I do hear and just wonder whether we're a little bit too hard and fast, whether that could be slowed down. I don't know that we can do it over the 3 years, Councillor Franklin, because that just lets the problem slip out because they will have annual increases, and that's part of the reason we're in this problem, or in this situation, is that I can remember some of those increases in previous years with concern have been $5 a week, and we've just let it slip back too far. But with the housing shortage, those market rents certainly skyrocketed very quickly. Okay. Sarah.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just while we've been discussing this, I've pulled up a piece of modelling that we have around the reserve balance.
Yeah.
And if we were to do the split over 3 years, the reserve will still be overdrawn in year 4. It will take year 5 before it comes into funds. And as Fontaine mentioned earlier, that would just be BAU, minimal renewals, no room for anything. And I just wanted to clarify, we have said pensioner housing is subsidised by general rates. I just want to make clear it's not. It has an internal loan, so the interest costs associated with that loan are charged back to this activity. I just really wanted to make sure that that was on record. I would hate for that information to get out that Joe Bloggs thinks their rates pay for this when it doesn't.
Thanks for that, Sarah, and especially that split over the 3 years. But what would that look like if, so you're at 5 years for splitting it over 3 years? My worry here is that they actually haven't got a lot of time to prepare for this jump. What would it look like if we split it over 2? And I guess I'm just looking at, people have got families. It's really hard to make those immediate adjustments. Or what is the portion? Because all of our pensioners have different dates. Some of them this will impact quite quickly, others it won't. Do you have an idea of what that might look like, just so I can get a timing figure and people being able to get budgeting and planning in place?
$6.6.2. Fontaine's noted that most existing tenants, it won't come into effect until early next year.
Yeah, I guess I was just asking, when it says most, what is that? I've just put, when you send out those letters, or is there any plan that you'll, work with budgeting services or one-on-one? I guess I'm just looking at what does that stress factor look like, and what does that portion of people look like that it's quite immediate? The ones that have got, 8 months to consider this and look at this and options, but how, what would that look like for the maybe 20? I'm just wondering what that figure looks like for the. I hope there's nobody that's sort of like 6 weeks. Yeah. 3 months.
No, I can't give you that off the right now, but we will have those figures because their anniversary dates are all different. What we've tried to do is, when the fees come into effect on 1 July, we try and, if they're falling, they're due just before that, we try and extend them out so they have the old rents for a little bit longer, so that we can get them rolling over at the same time, which is generally around 1 July or the 1 January.
Thanks, councillors. It's pretty grim. There's not a lot of choices there for us. Councillor Gilmore.
Thanks very much, Your Worship. It's been some good conversation, I think, and it's a really tough issue, and probably one of the reasons why some councils choose not to be a part of offering this service. I'm still of the view that with the large jump, that it does feel too quick, too large, too quick. And I do wonder, when we're looking at those options, we've got in my view, a hard option and then a really, really hard option in front of us. What it might look like if that arrow again was still heading in the right direction, but perhaps a little bit slower. Being mindful of the fact that, Sarah talked about it still being self-funded. So even if this account was still in deficit, it still will not be impacting the general ratepayer. And that has always been my primary concern when it comes to pensioner housing. I do think of the tenants that aren't lucky enough to be in pensioner housing, that are having to pay full market rate, rent, and a proportion of their rent, covering the rates of their landlord. I think it would be unconscionable for that to cover pensioner housing. The two options that are there, to be completely frank, where I'm sitting, I don't know if I could in all conscience support option 1 or option 2. So I just want to put that there.
Thanks, Councillor Gilmore. What I probably, and I guess we're having these conversations, we're all feeling it. At the moment, we don't have any solutions to offer. Sarah or Fontaine, what we might do is just let this lie. Is there anything that the team could have a look at them and come back with us just with a couple more? It is pretty hard. And we'll come back to it after we've done the long-term plan. Sorry, annual plan in this meeting. Yeah, we'll just let this item lie for a bit. Have another look and see if we can do. If there's nothing, then that's fine. Come back and tell us that, and we'll make the decision. But I guess I am really feeling it for, what would it look like over 2 years, or just If I can go out and hand on heart say I had a look at everything and there is absolutely nothing we can do, and the other one is just I guess it's going to be that shock within the community. I know it's not ratepayer subsidised, but still our ratepayers do care about those that are living in these flats and providing that service. Councillor Johns.
Thanks, Mayor Tracy. Yep, I totally agree with your comments and Scott's comments, simply on the basis that it's too big a jump too quickly, and if there is a way of smoothing it, please present it. I'm sure there is. But at the end of the day, yes, the jump will be made. It's just the reality that we face. It has to be self-funding. But I'm sure there's a balance there somewhere.
Thank you. I have got one more from Councillor.
Sorry, I was just going to say we are going out for consultation, so our fees and charges are included as part of the supporting information. So we need a figure around what this proposed rent is going to be to allow for, so I just want to...
If you jump in.
Through your worship, so what I'm proposing, just to keep it simple for the team, is looking at extending, would you be able to, in the next sort of an hour or two, look at a figure that reduces currently to what's proposed, but extends the time frames in terms of coming under green? I think you might have done some early work around this, Fontaine, and so no decision will be made in the next hour, but how long do you think you will need to come back with another option?
That's a luxury question. No, I can certainly do that. One question I do have then is what period is comfortable? So this projection is 2 years out and 3.
5 years.
5.
Can I just... when we presented to the workshop, that was going to come out in year 5. So those rent figures, would you like us to go back to what we presented in a council workshop?
Yeah, even if you can, and I'm not sure how quick that you could do this, but even if you can, give us an indication of the 4 and the 5. Yeah, Councillor Wallace. Sorry, you had a question.
Yeah, all I want to say is we've done a lot of work on that. You girls, ladies, have done a lot of really extreme work, presented well, and we need to, we're elected here to make decisions, not just when it gets hard, put it off. We can't put it off. We need to follow this through.
We're not putting the decision off. I've just, like I said, I won't need to be able to go out and justify this, that we've looked at every option and it will be consulted on, correct?
Thanks very much, Your Worship. I just need to respond to that. We absolutely are elected to make decisions, but we are elected to question things and try and make sure we have all of the information on the table to make the decision, which is what I'm asking for. So thank you very much for doing that.
Right, thanks everyone. Look, we might just adjourn for 15 minutes and have a cup of tea, and we'll come back, and then we'll have a little bit more of an idea and we'll head into the annual plan. Thank you. Thank you, councillors. Right, we're back into the annual plan. So, Sarah, welcome again.
Thank you, Your Worship. I will start us off on page 5 of the agenda where we talk around the consultation with the community. We've stated here that our overall rates increase that we're looking to go out for consultation is sitting at 771. This is a lot less than what we agreed when we did the long-term plan. Just want to cast your mind back. I think it was an 1179 increase for our ratepayers with us selecting the rate smoothing option. So just really highlighting that. We go out for consultation starting Monday, and I think it runs until the 15th of May. The comms team have done an absolutely amazing job with our consultation document, which is very exciting. I guess for me, one of the telling pages of that document is page 26, where we have that what's driving your rates. And the team have put in this little pie chart that says how much of the 771 relates specifically to the 3 waters.
Yeah.
Just reinforces our other consultation we've got going on at the moment for the local water done well. How we have got from the 1179 down to the 771 is in detail throughout the actual annual plan under significant changes from the long-term plan section. So each activity has that included within it. What else we have in here is we have made a change with only partially funding depreciation. Peter's going to cover that off in detail further on in the report. He's volunteered to tackle that one for me. Thank you, Peter. What we are consulting with our community on is spending an additional $150,000 on footpath as a result of the reduction in Wakukatahi funding. This would be a 0.4 average increase. Predominantly will be our industrial and urban ratepayers, just the way our rates are calculated for footpaths, but just 0.4 is the option there for the community. And then we have the additional item of seeking feedback around if the community would like us to invest in purchasing some property to help with Tararua Aquatics car parking. We've done a significant assessment. There's no concerns from what our long-term plan was to where we've landed. I won't go on to pensioner housing because we've covered that. The next item is the financial strategy. So within the financial strategy and the long-term plan, we said that we explained how we were going to get here in the next 10 years. And of that, I've listed the blurbs, and we've given an explanation as to how we're tracking year 2. So our rates limit was set at no more than 12%. We're significantly under that at 771 for this year. I've included a rates forecast graph, which you'll be familiar with from the long-term plan, just so we can, it's quite interesting to track the history of how we've gone and where we are. We've retained our 2% of rates dedicated debt repayment. Our borrowing limits, we are within these within the long-term plan. Our revenue sources, I've updated our sources of revenue graph, which is also stolen from our long-term plan, just so that we can sort of see how we're sort of tracking. And I guess it just reinforces what we're seeing externally with external funding, the changes that are coming from that, and the reduction you can quite clearly tell from the bar graph. We also said we would have a balanced budget, and we meet that within this annual plan. Any questions so far, or I'll just carry? Perfect. Rates distribution. So this, we have taken our rates requirement, which is what you're seeing in that little table there, and we've shown the percentage split for the change for rural, urban and commercial just out the side there. And then Gavin has wonderfully prepared his graphs for us where we see the change in percentage and where it's sort of hitting, and also our change in dollars. Just same information, just presented slightly differently. Our capital program, or dedicated debt repayment is noted above. Our capital program, we've summarised where our capital program has fallen within the annual plan. Any changes that are significant are covered off within the significant changes from the long-term plan. Transportation is a big one, but that's just a result of us with our changing our Waka Kotahi funding to align with what was approved. Water supplies is also another one where we have deferred the program to align, deferred some of the program. I think it's the Dannery impounded supplies, a perfect example. We can't achieve everything in 1 year, so just being better prepared and better planned for when we plan to take down any borrowings that are required for the work. Grants and subsidies has decreased as a result of Cyclone Gabrielle. We've reduced that program quite significantly. I think it was 12 million off the top of my head for proposed for year 2, and it's come down to 8. That's just based off the work that the team have completed to date and where they anticipate we might land in the next financial year. Operational costs, this has increased. This is quite I've tried to word it and I don't know that it's come across correctly. So I am having to explain 2 different changes. One is from the current year and one is from year 2. So I hope it makes sense, and please do question me if it doesn't. But this increase is driven from inflationary increases and insurance costs, and then of course the regulatory costs that have been imposed on us for the 3 waters. I think, Peter, correct me if I'm wrong, it's 102,000 that we hadn't planned in costs associated with the regulatory fees. Funding of depreciation, Peter.
Thank you, Sam. So we've deviated from our LTP in one respect, and that is in this time is to start funding the depreciation on catch-up. All we are saying is that we're deferring that. So it's not for that reason a loss of that. It's just that the affordability issue for ratepayers is very significant. We've got a large increase coming through, and a higher cost than that is really unacceptable. So it's a pragmatic approach. But the other is that we're in this period of stasis where we're not sure whether we're going to continue to be the owner of the asset or whether it's going to transfer to another water organisation. And for that reason that we are unsure, and that the terms of how debt and funding is going to be done in the future may change, means that the funding of depreciation isn't quite as significant right now. And there's a third reason that this is of interest, because we have now exhausted our depreciation reserves. We have got to the point where the only way we can do renewals is by borrowing. So that means putting money aside for future replacement of assets in excess of where we are currently may be irrelevant in the future, because we are going to have to change our pricing model with the controls in place by the Commerce Commission to make sure that the revenue streams from our ratepayers consumers will increase to meet the repayment of debt requirements. So we're kind of in a shift phase, but pitching this to basically catch up on what we didn't fund last year because of a revaluation just doesn't make sense at this time, in the respect that the ratepayers really are going to struggle with anything more than we've already put in front of them. So a bit of pragmatism, a bit of uncertainty in terms of how the future will roll, and it's not actually a major issue because we are actually still funding some depreciation. It's not that we're not funding all depreciation. It really is that hyperinflation effect that we had with the revaluation of the infrastructure that we are not funding. We may be going into a stagflation scenario in this, or we may be into 0% inflation for the coming year. That's the variations that we've got. We may even find some areas, because of the 0% increase predicted, and I only saw this yesterday, there'll be areas that decrease. So we might be lucky. I just say that because it might be fuel that drives the decrease. Fuel, of course, is the way that pipes are made. They're made from plastic. Plastic comes from oil. So one of our big cost increases in the previous valuation were pipes made from oil. So you see, there are too many balls up in the air, and it comes back to what can we now put in front of our ratepayers that is reasonable in reflection of the increasing level of service that we're providing, at the same time as it's still going to be very difficult, this ask. The question that Brian put to me a few weeks ago, should we roll this back further? The issue there I had with that is that it would be quite a significant deviation from our LTP. So it would be a different way of consulting that we'd have to go. It's possible. So I'll just leave you with that, and that might be something that we bring back post-consultation. Questions?
Councillor Johns.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, no, thanks, Peter. I assume one of the things you will be doing will be exiting Apple products and moving to Samsung, given recent developments worldwide. There could be massive increase in cost.
Through Your Worship, they may be dumped in New Zealand at a cheap price.
I think India is going to pick up the slack. I think India is going to pick up the slack from China.
Thank you, Councillor Wards.
Your Worship. Peter, thanks for that explanation. I think the key words for me in there, because you know I'm always trying to make sure we keep ahead of and don't have that debt just increasing. But the key word for me and that very thoughtful explanation was pragmatic. That there are too many uncertainties. The assets could go that way or that way. Let's just put enough away that makes sense at the moment until we get some certainty around what those issues might look like in the future. So thank you for that, and I certainly concur with the plan that you have proposed here. Thank you, Your Worship.
Councillor Johns.
Thanks, Mayor Tracy. Are supply chain increases issues still a problem? I see that's one of the reasons here.
So through Your Worship, definitely this was the case, I'd say, before Christmas. So we probably actually it was about May last year, we were very concerned about supply chains and the access to the large pipe requirements that we had in the year, and we did acquire in stock a large purchase of pipes so that wouldn't be an issue for us. So that's how we've been getting on. So that's a change from past practices where we could just order online and get it. It hasn't been quite as bad in recent months for the things that I've been importing. But last year I had a delay of 9 months for one particular item from Europe. So you'll be surprised. You'll be surprised at how hard it is to get things.
I'll carry on. The next item that we've got listed there is personnel costs. So what we've done is broken down the change that's in there. So we've said that 2.5% of the change is a result of inflationary change, and then 1.2% of the increase is a result of bringing waste management services in-house. I think Councillor Gilmore provided feedback, so we've tried to just put those numbers in to make it pretty transparent, or as transparent as we can. Finance costs is the next section we have there, and there is a slight decrease in our interest costs. This is just a result of change within interest rates and the opening balances being updated. I'm not sure if I will walk you through it. The process for setting the long-term plan takes our opening balances that are off the 2022 annual report. So obviously each year an annual report is completed and it gets adjusted for. So the opening balance adjustment with the completion of the 24 annual report has impacted some of these things. So just wanting to explain that a little bit. The next section we have there is financial strategy and revenue and financing compliance. I will own up to a mistake I have made on number 9.2. My apologies. I've updated within the blurb the percentages, but it still states that council has set a lower benchmark than the limits. Council has set a limit at the limit of the LGFA limits. That's a lot of limits in one sentence. My apologies. I hope it makes sense. You'll see from here we have our rates affordability benchmarks and our debt affordability benchmarks. There are some thumbs up along every single one of them, which is wonderful.
Thanks, Sarah. Can I just take a question from Councillor Wards?
We'll go just beyond the thumbs up, Sarah, if you don't mind. Thank you. Pleased about 9.1.2, but in 9.1.3, for those of us who love to talk about headroom, and Peter, I know you're going to look at me through your glasses on this one. Can you just, in the first statement there, you've said, or second statement, the debt limit with the least headroom is liquidity. Now, I'm not an accountant, but liquidity is the ability to pay your debts on time. So, can you please, I mean, you've indicated there that, you know, if things did go one way that we hadn't thought, we have got the ability to get a loan to do that. But can you just, are we in a situation, I guess I'm looking back over the time, how not how desperate are we, but how close are we to not having the ability to do that? I know what I want to say, but I better not say it.
Through your worship, thank you for that wonderful question, Councillor Wards. Our liquidity measure has been our lowest debt measure for quite some time. The way in which it's calculated, Peter can jump in and help me out here, but the way in which it's calculated is it factors in our total debt, and the more debt you seem to have, the percentage changes because it has funds available. It's quite a unique calculation, and it's probably not what you and I would measure liquidity in an ordinary business sort of sense. Did you have any?
Well, when it's linked to debt and the debt's increasing, the cash flow availability might be the same, but the debt is changing the ratios. Yeah.
Now, I get, I mean, there's no panic buttons going on. I'm just curious when, because that headroom, you know how pedantic I am about that, and for you to reflect that the least flex we've got is in quite a critical area, but I do understand it is reflected because of the debt, not because of a change in our cash in the bank, as it were. Thank you.
Through your worship, that is not a measure that keeps me up at night. Yeah.
There are plenty others.
It's not one that I worry about, is the best way to put your mind at ease, I guess. And the next section we have, if there's no other questions before I just carried on, my apologies, is our revenue and financing policy, where we've got our policy maximums and then where we have landed within the proposed draft. So these policy maximums were work that we did within the long-term plan. I know that we spent a lot of time with you around this, and this is where we sort of landed. So flagging that we have 5 activities that are either just outside or are outside of our limits. 3 of them were outside our limits within the long-term plan for year 1. So just wanting to bring that back. 2 that weren't outside the limits was our animal management. After talking with Jim at quite a bit of length around this, most other councils have an 80-20 split, and we have an 80-15 split. He has gone away and he has revised his fees and charges, and by doing so he increased it. You'll remember we allowed for quite a bit of growth within the long-term plan, and as we've been reporting our quarterly reports, we're not seeing that growth in the dog numbers. So he has gone away, and we have been quite prudent with our revenue that we're projected for our animal management activity, he has gone away and increased that revenue to fall within an 80-20 split. If the direction was set to stick within the 85-15, he would need to increase his fees and charges by an additional 50,000, which if you had 10,000 dogs, you're looking at an additional $5 average fee. The next,
Thanks, Sarah.
My
Can I just take a
apologies.
question? Councillor Gilmore.
Thanks very much, Your Worship. Thanks, Sarah. Just really quickly, and just to make sure that we're sort of clear on what that is, I did have a quick look at the animal management in some other councils, and yeah, you absolutely are. So, I found that quite interesting. What I just wanted to, I suppose, just really double check, for the most part with this, when we look at our maximum policy, that is the percentage of ratepayer funds versus fees and charges. Generally, there's some other bits that flow in there. I just wonder, not suggesting a change to the document at all, but whether this is something that we really highlight in some way. And, I particularly think of the, the like refuse and other bits where people talk about fees and charges and dump charges, of letting people know that their fees and charges don't actually cover the entire cost of delivering the service, because I'm sure others hear it as well, if fees and charges are too high, that they are still being subsidised by people that aren't using, in some cases, those. So I found this quite interesting. I know we go through in the long-term plan, the revenue and finance policy, and talk about the split and spend quite a bit of time. But this is actually quite an important one for ratepayers as well. So thanks for presenting it in such a concise way.
through your worship, thank you, Councillor Gilmore. That's really good feedback. I'll talk with comms and maybe we can include it as part of our frequently asked questions information or something like that. See what we can get out there. It's really great feedback. The last item we have there is cemeteries. So as you know, as part of the annual plan, we've found that the maintenance costs and tree removal work and things like that have caused quite an increase within our community facilities areas, and cemeteries is not an exception. The team had made the call to leave their cemetery fees and charges as they were and that's set within year one of the long-term plan. This is just something I'm flagging that we will monitor, and with contracts going up for renewal and changes that might come from that, we'll just continually monitor it and report it back to you. Next one is, no other questions? Oh, I must be talking too much, my apologies. Next one is the balanced budget requirement, which I did touch on earlier in the document. We meet that measure. And then that's the end of the report. Obviously attached to this is our wonderful consultation document. Karsten has just alluded me to a correction or an edit that we'll be making within our submission form. We don't have our postal address, so he's just looking to chuck that in there before we go out to the community next week. And then I just wanted to flag within the annual plan document, supporting document itself, the Mayor and CE intro has just been uplifted from the consultation document, so we will be tweaking that to reflect the annual plan document as opposed to the consultation document, but make sure the two talk back, but obviously that will be in conjunction with your worship and Brian.
Thanks, Sarah. Councillor Gilmore.
Thanks very much, Your Worship. Just two quick questions, if that's okay. The first being a quick one. I found, I think, a small typo in the Mayor and Chief Executive's forward. So can I just, instead of going through that, just flick it through to you? Cool. The other bit I just wanted to ask was about consultation, which you mentioned at the end. And I'm quite mindful we don't have a huge amount to consult on in this annual plan. And I'm also very mindful of how much we've been going out to people with local water done well, and perhaps the challenge of engaging people with what is a very material change versus our annual plan, which doesn't have a huge amount of difference apart from a positive change from the long-term plan. Are we taking into some consideration how we might be conducting those meetings, perhaps not having as many of them, still giving people an absolute easy opportunity to be able to engage and give feedback, but I am a bit concerned about consultation fatigue for our ratepayers and actually for our staff and us. But I just wondered what consideration had gone into that. Thank you.
Sorry, I'm going to ask Carsten to come and speak to that one.
Through you, Mayor Tracy. Thanks, Scott. Yes, that's a really valid comment. I know that especially during local water done well, attendance has been low, and so have submissions. And it's not only with us; it's with other councils as well. Yes, I think we need to do something about it. What I have noticed is that if we go out to events where people are already there, markets and other community events, interest is very high. So my personal feeling is that we need to capitalise on that. We still need to offer the opportunity, perhaps not with so many events. And I think now there is a bit of momentum to rethink this fundamentally, because there is a new events coordinator role, which has just come into, which is, I think they have just appointed a new candidate for this. And we, the comms team, is thinking of working closely with this person so that we can really rethink how we do our consultations.
Thank you, Councillor Johns.
Thanks, Mayor Tracy. Not a question to Carsten, but what I did notice, Carsten spoke to the mic and it was very audible. I could hear it well. I think we're all guilty, and particularly at that desk where there's one mic for two people, where you may as well not have the mic there, unless they speak to the mic. If they could please bear that in mind in the future, you guys, you others. But I'd like to go back to the cemeteries thing again, talking about dealing with trees and cemeteries. I take it that's come from the old Gorge Cemetery, Woodville Gorge Cemetery, and the trees that fell down and smashed headstones and so on. Has there been an assessment of other cemeteries, and in light of that, a need to take trees out around the place? Or is it just as a consequence of the Gorge Cemetery?
Through you, Your Worship, as a consequence of the Old Gorge Cemetery, we are looking at the tree maintenance across the district. So there is an exercise at the moment looking at all our contracts and how we can incorporate tree maintenance across the district. It is something that we haven't factored in the past, but issues or problems like that really have triggered the need to start looking at trees all across the district. So we are including it in our maintenance plans. Thank you.
Good to hear. Thanks, Carla.
Thanks. And if I just go back to the consultation with the local water done well, it's a significant decision, and we did discuss making as many opportunities as possible. But in the annual plan, actually, there is not a lot of consultation whatsoever. I think there's an informal item from Y Splash that will be driven quite heavily there, and then really it's around footpaths. So yeah, we can certainly peg those back on the public meetings and things like that. Definitely a lot of learnings there. Thanks, Councillor Gilmore. Right, Sarah, are you happy if we go into the document? I'm sure there is a couple of questions within the consultation document as well. I've got one, Sarah, I think I talked to you about, just around the Pahiatua Heritage Fund. I note that that's still got showing $27,000, whereas I thought that had been utilised.
Through your worship, that has been fully exhausted within this current financial year. The opening balance is based off the annual report from the 24 year, but we can definitely look into correcting that for the final.
Okay, Councillor Wards.
How are we going to tackle this? Where shall we go, or just all over?
Well, I think I just thought there was nothing there, so I'd ask that quick one first.
Okay. I just have, whether it's probably for you, Carsten, but on page 12 of our agenda, which is the give your feedback on the Y Splash car park proposal, you've referred to, in the first paragraph, the Tararua Aquatic Community Trust, but then in the last sentence in the green there, you've talked about the Y Splash board. I'm just suggesting that it's one or the other, probably. And if we're working further down, I'm a bit like you, Mayor Tracy. I've got some things with, not biggies, don't worry. It's a great.
Absolutely. Thanks for that, Councillor Woods. I agree that we don't want any confusion in that. Y Splash did also request some more elaboration on safety, but I think it's an informed item. There is enough there for people to be able to get out and engage in some discussion. But I did forward that communication on. Okay. Councillors, just as we flick through it, I did just have a question around the waters and the scope of work, whether that was doable and whether we needed to have all of that in there with local water done well. There was a significant amount, especially around water treatment plants, wetlands and that consenting. I just wondered whether all of that was actually within capability. Sorry, I guess I've just got quite a bit. We've got the Norsewood Wastewater Treatment Plan, Norsewood Wetland Purchase, Norsewood Wastewater Wetland Resource Consent, and then sort of the same for Ormondville. And I guess it was just being out for consultation with local water done well. One of the benefits is being able to utilise and waiting for those standards and things like that to come out. Just how much of that work was possible there on the team, because I know they've got a lot.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for the question, Mayor Tracy. I think we've gone through our capital project list with a very a pencil and put a line through a bunch of things that we don't think are super timely or necessary in the next financial year. We do need to make progress on things, and a lot of the projects are doing the design one year and then the delivery the following, so they're multiple year programs. We're quite confident that we'll get through the work that we've put into the program, and we certainly don't want to take the gas off or preempt a decision around the CCO side of things.
I guess one of the things that we know that some changes to the standards are coming, so there'll be some consideration given to that.
Absolutely. We're reviewing our situation at the moment against the current draft of the standards. We've got our team doing that at the moment, just to see what the impact will be, whether we can put in a lesser engineered process. Certainly Etikirahona is the key one that we're looking at. We're hoping that the pipe being connected is going to show some drop in the need for that plant as well. So yeah, we're certainly trying to time things in the right way.
Thank you. Sorry, Councillor Gilmore, I was just trying to find my next question.
Thanks very much, Your Worship. This is a really quick one and more of a comment. On page 26, there is a great chart there of what's driving your rates. I suppose my comment or request would be if we use that chart extensively on some of our advertising, because it is a real common question that comes up, and I think it is really important and quite timely with our local water done well conversation. But full credit to whoever designed that. I thought it was a great way of displaying that information.
Totally agree, Councillor Wards.
Just a quick one, thank you, Your Worship. I went to the financial statements and I have to congratulate on the presentation of them. I really appreciated how you took what we thought we might do, but actually the major changes that we have and the impact that it's had on some of those bottom line figures. The other thing I appreciated in here, I don't know if we've done it before, is the statements around is the impact negative or positive compared to what we thought we might do in the plan. And I think the targeted areas, and you alluded to it already, Hamish, is you've gone through and pragmatically decided, no, let's sweat that asset a bit longer and or defer it. So great piece of work.
Okay. I think when we talk about transparency, and this document it's easy to read, it is a great document, but when we talk about transparency, everything's here. If you want to sit down and read it, everything's here. And there's some things that you'll sit down and read and, they'll tweak an interest. And I noticed on one of the pages, there was, I think, $47,000 put down for the Dennyburg pavers, and it sort of made me smile because I have a lot of conversations about Dennyburg pavements. So there is a lot of information in here around anything. So thank you very, very much for putting all of that together. It does take a lot of time, and I know that the teams have had, the long-term plan, the annual plan, local water done well, and all of those documents to do at once. So your head must be spinning with those figures, Sarah. I was nearly tempted to ask you what did keep you up at night around that. So thank you very, very much for that. Are there any further questions on the consultation document, noting that the Chief Executive can make some minor tweaks to any typos, so we will get that one, Councillor Gilmore.
Thanks very much, Sarah. I was just furiously trying to find it and I can't quite find the page. I'll learn to handwrite out some of my notes as well. Wanted to just quickly flag the district plan review and the costs associated with the district plan review, with the work obviously not going to be completed within our current year one, so it'll be moving into our annual plan that we're looking at. I suppose something that jumps out at me is some comments that are coming out with relation to all councils' district plans, that if the government changes come to fruition, it's basically going to require a rewrite of all district plans around the country. Some of those changes are super significant. Has some consideration been given within our budget in that area in relation to the district plan? Because, we've already done a heap of work and great work within that, but hearings, consultation, other bits come at quite a large cost.
Through your worship, from a budgeting perspective, not at this point. It is a little bit early to know that. Certainly a lot of questions still need to be answered regarding the impact of our district plan. What we are proposing is that with the consultants that are helping us prepare the district plan, is we're going to have a meeting to see if there is actually any point continuing with the district plan, or are we better off holding off. My view is that we need to hold off a little bit until we know more, because we don't want to unnecessarily spend any more ratepayer money on this if it's going to be thrown in the rubbish bin. The other considerations is that the new legislation is being proposed to be implemented around 2026, but does that mean on 2026 we throw all our district plans, current ones, in the bin and start another one, or is there a transition for a year or two as they create a new regional plan, in which I understand we may have a chapter within that, so it might be that we still have 3 years to go with the current district plan. So I think there's a lot of unknowns at this point. If we're still going to operate within 3 years, my recommendation would be that we would continue. But I think we've just got to wait a little bit longer to find out a little bit more information. And what I'm proposing is we can bring back an item to council once we know that to make a decision.
Councillor Johns.
I will be extremely disappointed if we don't complete what we've done. Basically, it's been done. It's finished with. It's gone out for consultation. The money's been spent. Let's tick it off. Finish it.
Councillor Moss.
But as the CE alluded to, these decisions are out of our control. So what will be, will be. But I hope logic prevails.
Thank you, Councillor Wallace. Councillor Woods, did you want to make a comment? No. Okay. There's been an incredible amount of work, and a lot of people and a lot of decisions have rested on that district plan, so I do understand. Sarah?
I was just going to add, thank you, Your Worship. The way in which we rate for the district plan review is an operational loan over the life of the district plan, so any changes in budgets aren't going to come into fruition until probably year 3.
I think it's the long-awaited challenges with some of those things that we've all been looking forward to tidying up. That is the guts of it. Okay. Okay, are there any further questions on the document? Otherwise, rather than taking this separately, we can move back into pensioner housing. If the team's here. We can just wait, we'll just adjourn for 10 minutes while we just wait for the team to come back and see if they have found anything else that we can consider. Welcome back. We've just gone live again. So welcome, Fontaine. I think and Marina. Can you hear us? Can you hear us, Fontaine and Emarina? No, we can't hear you. You're off mute now.
Emarina's on mute.
Can you do it from?
You're just, yeah, it's showing that you're just on mute.
There you go.
Do you want to speak now and see if we can hear you? No, we can't.
That come down.
Okay, we've just got a couple of technical difficulties. We'll give her a couple of minutes to try and sort that out. So, I'm sorry, it's been a trying morning for you, Fontaine.
Can they hear us?
Yeah, can you hear us? Can you just give me a thumbs up if you can hear us? They can't hear us either. Okay.
There's nothing I can change at this end.
Okay, do you just want
Because
to...
she's showing as muted, but then when she unmutes, it shows as unmuted.
Right, councillors, we'll just adjourn while we get the technical difficulties sorted out, although... No, we've just received the thumbs up. Can you hear us, Fontaine?
No, we can't.
No. We can't hear you still. Sorry, Fontaine. But thumbs up, can you hear us? Awesome. Sorry about this.
Just ask.
Hang on 2 seconds. What about now?
Hooray!
Hooray, thank you.
Welcome. And there's nothing like some technology pressure when you're waiting online for everybody. Nothing works. Thank
Sorry,
you, Fontaine. Thank you both for the work that you've done in the last while since we've been talking about the annual plan too. I know the pressure that that's put you under.
Yeah, so consider that. Can we share that?
Right. Would you like to share with us what you found or any advice?
Yes. So what we've come back and quickly had a look at is where the rents. Oh, sorry. Can you take me back there? Yeah. So where the rents could. Does this share? Can you see that?
No, we can just see you both in the picture, so nothing's sharing at this point. And Sarah, now we're right. We've got something sharing now. Is that you, Sarah, sharing that? Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Fontaine.
Okay. Okay. Move us out of the way. Oh, how do I? Sorry. I can't see because you're sitting over to the that. Yeah, thank you. So what I've done is come back to have a look at the different rates compared to the superannuation. And so a couple of other options is sitting between the original proposal in the workshop and what was presented to you earlier this morning. And what we've found is putting those options through the finance model as well, but looking at sitting close or just over what we currently have in regards to our self-imposed limits of 33% of superannuation. So one of the options for, and really the key is, well, the issue is sitting in our 1-bedroom units where the rent is too low. So consideration of a increase of another $15, which would take their rent to $205, or an increase of $25. And the superannuation would, the percentage there would be at 33% of superannuation. A $25 increase for a 1-bedroom unit would take us outside our imposed limit to 34% and a charge of $215. Or a increase of $35 per week, taking that to 36% of the superannuation and a weekly rent of $225. Looking at those three options, and excuse the projection is not very pretty given the rush, but our projections for option 5, which is this one here, right? Option 5, can you move that one? Sorry, thank you. So option 5 at $205 per week for a 1-bedroom unit, or with a 10% increase each year for 5 years, for the over the 5-year period, will lift us out and start building on our reserves. That's what we look like at 5 years. Which is landing us here. With a $25 increase in rents, we start building quite a decent enough reserve, and that again is with the 10% increase. All taking into consideration that no major events occur in the next 5 years for renewals or for refurbishments that were not planned for. So we're sitting in that space there, we're sitting, significantly, I think, well, not significantly, but slightly below what we were proposing originally, and aiming for that $5-year mark to lift us and start building onto those reserves for pensioner housing. Any questions? Can we start them?
Yep.
Tracy, but if you can ask Fontaine, going back to the trajectory, because it's very hard to.
Fontaine, can you just pop your other graph up, move that up? Yeah.
Which one is option? So the very top one, Fontaine, that was our original.
Yes.
So we've
left those proposals in there.
Oh, okay. So where's option 7? Because I can't distinguish the colour.
Sorry, option 7 is.
It's on our.
Yeah.
What's on here now? Oh, thank you. That will help. Oh, perfect. Thank you.
That's good.
No, it's only, yeah, I see.
So it's got the proposed thing.
Sorry.
Where's that? Because we've got 5, 6, 7 5, 6, 7 in that line that says
Proposed fee,
I'm just trying
yeah.
to figure out what.
Fontaine, can you just speak to, on your trajectory graph, you've got a blue line that says proposed fee.
Oh, is
Which
that
option
what
is that proposed fee, or is that from earlier? Or should we just be looking at the colours of option 5, 6 and 7?
Sorry, hang on 2 seconds. We were quickly concentrating on those ones. Did we mix that one up? Originally, the proposed option had a mix of Woodville and Dannyburg having 2 different rates.
Right.
But we were looking for a quick turnaround and with a response. We were just concentrating, on the additional options and reflecting what the effects are, what the impact on the superannuation would be.
Thanks for that. And understand the quick turnaround why you chose that too. Councillor Wards.
Fontaine, are you still proposing that we eliminate the cap of 33 though? That hasn't changed?
Yes, I would still like council to consider removing that.
Right, thank you. Because we're a lot closer to it in some of these other options now.
Peter.
So just in terms of reference, the urban rates as proposed in the annual plan, draft annual plan for consultation, is at 9% increase. So if you look at a 10% increase, say the 190, that would place it 10% more. So that's more like 209 to give you, so it's in between option 5 and 6. That's what most ratepayers are receiving, if you understand. So the value also is that the assumption that there are no renewal requirements beyond that which were already identified. There are always opportunities when a person leaves the flat for any reason that you might go in and refurbish it at that point. But those sorts of contingencies aren't large and they're probably not that impactful, but it's always wise to think that that is an appropriate contingency to have when you're managing flats. I'm just saying that I would allow a little bit of leeway for a refurbishment of at least one flat a year, for instance, and that would affect the debt repayment level, but not significantly. It's just about having timing and that flexibility as you need. You don't have to spend it. That's the other thing.
Thanks, Peter. Councillor Gilmore.
Thanks very much, Your Worship. Fontaine, thank you so much for providing some extra options for us and so quickly. Really, really grateful to you and to the team for working on that. And Peter, thanks for that extra context. When I have a look at option 5, that feels much more comfortable for me, but in the sense that if I'm reading this right, at year 6, we would have $250,000 of reserve built back up, which still, obviously some of that will be used for different things that we might need to be doing and refurbishments. This still is self-funded, so it won't be requiring any extra ratepayer funding, which is my key principle when I look at these, but is still making sure that the pensioner housing is fulfilling its intended purpose as well. So I'm really grateful for that, just to indicate that I'm certainly leaning towards option 5. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Gilmore. Councillor Wallace.
Yeah, I'm pleased we're going to stop kicking the can along the road and we face up to reality. So, and it's softened it, but it's working in a. It's not going to be that harsh this year, but reality is what Peter has said. Rates don't come down, costs go up, and we're living in the time we are. So yeah, option 5 for me is fine.
Thank you, Councillor Wallace. Any other thoughts, councillors? I guess the part for me is that, yes, this has lessened this, but I think the key message is the 10% that's coming, and we can signal that so that people can budget that, and it must be adhered to. So I would like that written into the motion as well. Councillor Wards, can I just check in? Like it is, and I guess, you know, it's a fine line between option 5 and option 6. The team have given some clear signals. Did you have any contraring views on that?
I do, Your Worship. Option 5 and well, certainly option 5 doesn't require us to change our cap. Option 7, I set my eyes on. I thought, well, it's still on the right trajectory. It's going to take a year or so to get us over the line. I have still not had my question answered in my own mind that here we are focusing on the percentage of gross super, and yet those pensioners who are renting privately are probably having to suck up a lot more than that in their super. And so even if we take away the cap, we've still adopted it in option 5. I appreciate that, you know, these are all slightly softer options than what we considered this morning. I would accept option 5, but I would prefer option 7 if I had to hand on heart.
Councillor Petty-Weber.
Thank you, Your Worship. I've had a good look, and I'm a little bit with Sharon. I just don't think that option 5 is too risky, and looking at what could happen and what has happened in the past with our council flats. So I'm leaning more to option 6.
Thanks, Councillor Petty-Weber, about the middle ground. I guess for me, and what I'm just thinking in my head is we had 2 cleansing orders. You know, when we're talking about what are those unintended things or the things that we're not we're not foreseeing. For me, you know, one of those refurbishment, a cleansing order is quite significant as well. I'm just a little bit worried about what that might mean going forward and some of those, having enough money for some of those costs. Councillor Chase.
Thank you through you, Tracy. I think option 5 is too soft an option for us to take, considering we're constantly having to go over the pensioner housing stuff, and I'm in line with Sharon with option 7, where we're still able to make it more affordable, but also building up our reserves, because these are pensioner housings, and the stories I have heard, and even from some of the pensioners, is that, you know, the hot water cylinders burst, or I forgot my key. We've got one person who I know, who I work with, who's forever leaving her key inside the house, or there's all those call outs and stuff that is actually costing, and we're going to keep doing them. But there's also the hot water cylinders bursting, or the fact that these buildings are 40 to 50 years old. We actually have to be honest with ourselves. They are going to need maintenance, big maintenance possibly. And I think option 7 is going to be a better option for us to have some money in the kitty to be able to pay for some of those, what I see is going to be emergency fix-ups, whether we like it or not. So I'm for option 7.
Thanks, Councillor Chase. Councillor Wallace.
Yeah, through you, Tracy. I was asking Sarah about the projection of interest increase rent increase over time, because that we seem to have it and not have it. Like, in other words, like with rates, at times we have low rates and then we all of a sudden end up with these big spikes to catch up, instead of having it scaled over time to be in line with costs, maintenance and everything else. But I was just trying to find that figure, but are you still working on it? Okay. And because going forward, this will happen again next year because costs go up and up. So, yeah, it is a difficult one, but I think whatever we do decide on, it will, if we go low, it'll affect it somewhere along the road because it's got to catch up. We always take in the past with rates, there's no rates increase and then all of a sudden, boom. So that's the type of scenario we're looking at here. And the time we live in, we're in 2025.
Thanks, Councillor Watts. Can I just check you're still at option 5 or you're... So I guess the languaging I'm getting doesn't match the option that I've recorded.
Yes, I have. Let's have a one each way, so I must be sitting in the middle. Well, I've got to be honest, don't I? I mean, otherwise I'm a bit of a hypocrite.
Thanks, Councillor Wallace. The comment that I would make, and I guess, if I pick up on Councillor Chase's comment around the keys being left inside. So if you were a tenant of any other landlord, would you be ringing your landlord to get those keys out, or would you be ringing, a locksmith? So there is a lot of benefits to having council as a landlord. And the other part that I just, without focusing on the cap, is that this does include your rubbish, of which has gone up, and this also includes your lawn mowing. So I just thought I'd highlight those two because that is, I know we're not doing light bulbs and bits anymore, but there are other things where, and I'm proud of this fact that the staff would always listen to a concern coming in from one of those residents. Councillor Gilmore.
Thanks very much, Your Worship. I'll just make my last comments on this. I think I can see the way that it might be rolling. I maintain my support for option 5, and I just want to articulate a couple of reasons for that, just to make sure we're all really clear. The first is option 5 does not put us in a position of going backwards. It's just a slower increase of going forward. Almost every other landlord in this country will operate through being in debt, through lending, to be able to maintain or buy their properties. If they need to do a major refurbishment or build more units, they will take on debt as long as the rent is able to service that debt and more, which is what that chart shows. Then that is a sound business position to be in. I think it's really important to note that these pensioners have already had a fairly large increase recently, because we had a similar debate around the table. We had hoped that the trajectory would move up a little bit quicker. I'm really grateful to have some more information and to be able to debate this a bit more. There's also been some talk about costs of leaving keys inside or other bits and pieces. It's important to note that those costs are already built in to these charts. So they've already been considered within these charts because we know how much it's costing us to run that. And even with that in mind, the trajectory still shows us within year 6 having a surplus of $250,000, which is not too bad from my take. I maintain my support for option 5 for those reasons. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gilmore. Councillor Franklin.
Thank you, Worship. I've been sort of running between all three, and every time you hear someone explain their reason for it, it's quite easy to be persuaded back the other way. And listening to Councillor Scott then, we're quibbling over $10 basically. I think my preferred option would be option 5 at this point, unless someone can persuade me otherwise.
Councillor Wallace.
So going forward, whatever option we pick today, in the past they used to have it this comes around annually every year, because like what they mentioned before, we had a sudden catch-up. And this is what I'm alluding to before. All of a sudden, if you don't do anything, you've got to have a massive catch-up. And that's what I'm scared of again. So, you know, and timing, because, and I know they worked hard at it, over time, maintenance has to happen, but it's that happy ground. That's where we've got to land. And I would like to think, maybe from the past experience, maybe Peter might be able to enlighten us from previous councils where they landed with information. Thank you.
So I guess over the years we've had these situations arise. This is not the first time we've had this sort of discussion about what the right point of increase should be. And the most important thing is the follow-up years, not just the year that you're looking at. It's the consistency and the putting into effect the strategy that you've developed to get those reserves back to where you want them to be, and still having some flexibility in how you respond as a good landlord. The only point I think I would make is that option 5 is below the rate increase that the general urban rate is looking at in the draft annual plan. The option 7 is above, so option 6 is the one that's in between. So I just make that point because you're actually, you're probably being very not generous, because the numbers aren't significantly different from our perspective, but we know that they are significant to the pensioners and those in the properties.
Thanks. I think that is a good point. Yeah. That is a really good point, that the rates increase that we're giving to our pensioner units doesn't equate to the rate increase that everyone else is getting in the urban area. Thanks, Peter. Councillor Petty-Weber.
Sorry, just quickly, Your Worship, because I know we probably want to move on. I remember when someone moved out and we used to do up the flat, it used to be about $100,000 to fully do it. And I'm just wondering, Fontaine, would you know what the price or what it costs to do fully outfit and do up a flat when someone leaves at the moment? And are we still going to be doing that, or are we just going to be a few touch-ups when someone moves out?
Okay. So approximately, like we've budgeted 85, I think, for renewals, for refurbs that we've planned. The units, if they don't require a refurbishment, we're definitely not doing that. So if they are programmed in for it, we will definitely do it. It's hard to determine because I don't know where the $100,000 came from, but if it was completely flooded or a fire, then it would definitely cost up to that. But for us doing a refurb, we're looking at renewing the kitchen and the bathroom, paint and carpets, which we can keep down to around the $50,000-$60,000 for a full refurb.
Thanks.
That's pretty much about right where we've landed, eh? I'm quite sure that's where we've landed for a full refurb. That was the last one.
Okay, that's cool. Thank you, Fontaine. I had this 100K figure in my head from when we went and visited for some reason, but
yeah. So we're definitely not going in to do a full refurb on a unit just because it's vacant, but we do take that opportunity to do a quick assessment and see what. If it's near due for renewals or refurbishment, that is probably the opportunity for us to carry that work out, given that our tenants, once they're in a pensioner unit, they don't generally leave us unless they're going to a retirement home or...
Thanks very much. That keeps me... I'm still going to stay with option 6 then. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Gilmore.
Thanks for indulging me again, Your Worship. But more, this is more for a point of clarification, because it does appear some comments from my friend Peter sitting there has resonated with some. So I just wanted to double check when we were looking at using as a justification the percentage of rates that will be applied perhaps to other people who own a home. In my understanding of that, it is a little bit different, or actually quite a bit different. And the reason why it's different is the percentage that we will be applying to people's rates will just be on their rates, so on a smaller amount. The percentage that we're asking to apply to people here will be on their entire rent. Respectfully, I think it is a little bit apples and oranges when we're looking at that, because we're applying a percentage to a much larger whole, which has a much larger impact. My last comment, and with that in mind, is just my last time as a reminder that whatever we choose will still be self-funding. It won't have an impact on our general ratepayer. It just means that we'll be in debt for longer within this particular reserve. But whatever we choose will have a very large impact on the people that will have to pay for it. So I'm going to leave my comments there. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Gilmore. Peter, can I just highlighting on that, so council pays rates on those pension units. Now, we have had discussions because those rates we don't charge individual wastewater connections there, so that is also a saving on that. So if we, I guess I'm trying to enable some fairness in this. I get that it is a big increase, but I've also watched this council, be very nervous around putting those prices up as well. So I'm just trying to think in my own head what you could get in the market for, for the 205, when we know that we've got people, in private rentals, nowhere near that. That was all. Thanks, Peter, for doing that. I'll just go Councillor Chase, then Councillor Wards.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Tracy. When I do look at these rates, pensioner rates, rent, I look at it as taking out $20, which is the additional services that they actually get. And then when you look at it, they're paying possibly $195 just to be able to be in the house. But they get extras, which is no different to, which is a lot different to a lot of other pensioners that are actually paying probably $400, as well as the extra services that these pensioners are getting. So hence why I am sticking with option 7.
Thanks, Councillor Chase. Councillor Wards.
Thanks, Your Worship, and I have listened to and taken on board. I still will go with option 7, and I just went back to your original paper, Fontaine, to reassure myself the direction you'd been given by us was what does it look like at market value. Option 7 is below market value, and the appraisals that you conducted, we are well within even the highest, I think the highest value that you had in there was 310 or something. So, we're well within the justification of, we looked at market, we haven't gone that high. We've got the addition of these extra services that account for that. So I'm still comfortable with option 7.
Thanks, Councillor Wards. I'm just going to quickly crunch my numbers for my after day. I look at, absolutely. I looked at the numbers and I've written them down here, and I've even put where I am, but I just want to actually have a look on a weekly basis of what that will be. Sorry? Yeah, the thing is, this is good debate. This isn't easy. This is people's lives, but actually we've also got an element of prudence. So, and look, I'll just crunch the numbers because I said I would. 2 seconds. It's still better than where I was sitting this morning. Right. So where I had myself sitting, I thought I'd go in between that option 6. I think we've got to stay away from the percentage and do something that's realistic. So for me, the 215 was still a $25 a week increase, but it looks far better on their weekly income without the expenses. The key for me is that this has to be communicated, that this is the price, this is what you're receiving for this. And don't get me wrong, I've been in reception where pensioners have come in crying, and they have come in and raised voices at staff because that's how much they are on the breadline. But I think it's about how we work with people and making sure that, are you receiving what you need to be? And I would like a little bit of, and maybe I'll talk to the Chief Executive, how we can do that, how we can work with our agencies to ensure that they're getting all of those subsidies that they are able to for that, because that does concern me. Yeah, it's a big difference, but they need to know that actually it doesn't end here. And when anyone does move into one of these flats, because you've got to remember some people have been in them for a very long time, so this is a big increase to them. But anyone new that's moving into one of these flats, this is the price here. You know that you are going to get 10% next year, 10% the year after, and 10% the year after that. So I'll place my vote with option 6. And we'll have a chat to Councillor Long and Councillor Sutherland. Councillor Johns for their absence. So I'm just going to put this through. So I've got a whole list of consultation to go there. Yep, Councillor Gilmore.
Thanks very much, Your Worship. Could I ask for that part of the vote to be split out from the main consultation vote, if that's okay, please? Thank you.
We can do that. Okay, so I'll take that one first. Just give me a minute. So the recommendation for that is that the Tararua District Council approves the proposed pensioner housing fees and charges for the 25-26 financial year being Dannyburg, a one-bedroom flat, one-bedroom unit is at option 6 is $215. A Dannyburg 2-bedroom unit at option 6 is $305. Dannyburg contribution 2-bedroom unit at option 6 is $155. Woodville, Pahiatoa and Ekatahuna bedroom unit is $210. Have I got that correct, Fontaine? Yep. So we'll take that part and then do the rates cap if that's what you're requesting, Councillor Gilmore. Okay, so I'm happy to move that. Can I have a seconder and I'll do a division on the vote? Yep. Okay. Okay, thank you. Right, and I'll just call, so those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Okay. So that's Councillor Wallace and Councillor Petty-Webber in favour. Those against, so those against are Councillor Chase, Councillor Franklin and Councillor Wards and Councillor Gilmore. Okay, so that motion is lost. Well, I can cast a vote on it, but there is too few of us here. So we're at a tie here, councillors. I don't want to cast a vote. Well, I can do that. Well, yeah, sorry.
Through your worship, I'm just listening to where councillors were sitting, just to note that when you went through option 6 and you pointed into, you added the totals, 6 and 7 are actually the same on the 2-bedroom Dannyburg units, and the Dannyburg 2-bedroom contribution units are the same as well. So I'm just thinking if someone's voting options, you're sort of getting a bit of a mix. So maybe it's easier or harder. The only way you look at it is actually go through each of those, noting that people that are going to vote 7 are voting 6 for those two as well.
Okay. Yep, councillor Chase, sorry. That's why I put the figures in there.
Yes, through you, Tracy. Sorry, me, Tracy. If we were to go with option 6, which would mean we would need to change our rating. What is it? Our cap. And we haven't even agreed on that, have we?
It's a separate motion. Yeah.
But then how can we vote on this if we haven't even voted on that?
I'll take that one first. Sorry, I was just doing them in order on the paper. So we'll go to that motion first. The Tararua District Council approves the proposed amendment to the self-imposed rent cap position to reflect market rents, rental appraisals, property condition, household income, additional services, solid waste and maintenance. So we are proposing that we remove the imposed rent cap. Councillor Gilmore.
Thanks, Mayor Tracy. I just want to very quickly speak on that motion because it may seem inconsistent that I'll support this, whereas I've been quite clear on my preference option. So I just want to very, very quickly explain why I would support this is when I have looked at the options, I haven't been doing it based on an income cap. I've been based on all of the other reasons that I've talked about. And I think that we can use our own judgment without being constrained by having that policy there. So I just wanted to mention that.
No, thank you, I agree. Right, so that we've got 1.3, that motion's there. Do we have a mover? Okay, thank you. So I've got moved, Councillor Ward, seconded, Councillor Wallace. Okay. So move Councillor Ward, second Councillor Wallace. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Okay, so that one was unanimous. Great. Now we'll go back. Right. So the Tararua District Council approves the pensioner housing fees and charges for the 2025-26 financial year. Right. So we had Dennyburg one bedroom unit at $215. Now that I can do these individually because that seems that that's the only one that is well, I guess the question is it? So I'll put it to the vote. So Dennyburg one bedroom unit at $215. Do we have someone to move that? Councillor Petty-Weber? That's and seconded Councillor Wallace. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Yep, so, okay. I'm in favour of that also. So that's 3. Those against? Aye. Yeah. Sorry, just writing down. So that's Councillor Gilmore, Councillor Wallace, Councillor Chase and Councillor Franklin. Okay. Yeah.
No, he voted in favour.
Sorry. So Councillor Gilmore, Councillor Wards, Councillor Chase, Councillor Franklin against? Yeah, sorry. No, it's because I did initials. That's why. I apologise. Okay. Right, so that motion is lost. Dennyburg 2 bedroom units. Yep. Okay. We're almost playing bingo. Right. Councillor Wallace, and then the Chief Executive suggested the second motion goes up as option 7.
Yeah, I'm just speaking to that. Yeah, because we're talking about $10 on option 7 at the bottom of that page, because 6 and 7 are identical.
Except for the one.
It's the one.
Yeah, but it's the way it's on that spreadsheet.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to.
Yeah, no, look, I think we will just go through the odds. Right, Dennyburg 1 bedroom unit, and I guess whilst it seems like we're talking about $10, this is $10 to somebody's fixed income. Dennyburg 1 bedroom unit, proposed rent at $225 per week. Do we have somebody to move that? Moved Councillor Ward, seconded Councillor Chase. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. So sorry, can I just, councillor Wards, councillor Chase, and who else was in favour of that?
You can vote.
Everyone can vote, this is a separate vote. Right, so those against? Councillor Gilmore, councillor Franklin,
Excuse me.
Yep.
Point of clarity, I just want to make sure that now we're doing individual on both options, then within the rooms of each option, basically what you're doing now. Because the CE just said I can now vote for or against, which is going to change the whole metrics of this vote.
So taking these as individual votes, so option 6 was lost on a 1-bedroom unit. So that leaves your two other options as at $205 or $225. So there's no middle ground. So you're able to change your vote. The one that's on the table is $225 per week. And in favour of that, we have got Councillor Wards and Councillor Chase, and against we have got Councillor Gilmore and Councillor Franklin. So I'm waiting for. So Councillor Petty-Weber is against, and you're against. Yes. Okay. Right.
Councillor Wallace moved the motion.
Yeah.
So,
I think I had Councillor Wards. Did you? Councillor Wards moved it. So you might have done the same thing as me. SW sometimes gets confusing. I do apologise. Okay, so that motion is lost. So the proposed rent for a 1-bedroom flat at $205. All those in favour, please say aye. Moved by Councillor Gilmore, seconded by Councillor Franklin. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Aye. I'm going to. Right, the motion is lost. I do bless not having the numbers here today. Right, councillors, that one is lost. I'm going to go back to the original motion. Dannyburg 1-bedroom unit at $215. I'm happy to move that. Do I have a seconder? Seconded, Councillor Petty-Weber. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Councillor Steve. Against? Aye. That's all right. Even if I cast a vote, it's even. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Well. Well, somebody's going to have to put something up because I can't get anything through. So that is where we're at, councillors. You are talking $10 between each of those. There has to be a middle ground. Councillor Gilmore, can you move to 210? Yep. Okay. Right, the proposed Dannyburg 1-bedroom rent at $210, moved by Councillor Gilmore. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Franklin. All those in favour, please say aye. Right, sorry, I'm just going to go around. I am running out of paper here. So we've got moved by Councillor Gilmore, seconded by Councillor Franklin. Councillor Petty-Weber? Against? Councillor Wards?
I'm against. I'll move in the next one, 220. Yeah, I'll move up $5.
Okay, sorry. Councillor Wallace? You're against? Councillor Chase? Okay, against. The motion is lost. I was open. Right, Councillor Petty-Weber, would you like to move the next figure?
Yes, Your Worship, I'd like to move mine up from 215 to 200. I suggest 220, the middle ground.
Okay, so Councillor Petty-Weber's moved $220 per week. Councillor Wallace has seconded that. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against?
Aye.
Okay. The motion is carried.
Thank you.
Woo! Thank you. We're going to go through the others now. Thank you for your patience, Fontaine. Yes, we will record Councillor Franklin and Councillor Gilmore's votes against that motion. Thank you. Right, we'll move to 2 bedrooms. Right. Yeah, yeah. That was lost before. Right. Dannyburg 2 bedroom unit. Councillor Petty-Weber, would you like to move $305?
Yes, I will move the 305, which is option 6 and 7.
Seconded by Councillor Wallace. All those in favour, please say aye. Sorry, that's Councillor Petty-Weber, Councillor Wards, Councillor Wallace, Councillor Chase. Those against? Councillor Gilmore and Councillor Franklin. The motion is carried. Dannyburg 2 bedroom contribution units. The Councillor Petty-Weber, you're having luck.
I will move that we go for option 6 and 7, $155.
Do we have a seconder? Seconded Councillor Chase. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. So I've got Councillor Wards, Councillor Petty-Weber, Councillor Wallace, Councillor Chase. Against? No. Councillor Franklin and Councillor Gilmore. We can record that. The motion is passed. The Woodville, Pahiatua and Ikitahuna 1 bedroom units. Councillor Petty-Weber.
I propose that we move in between option 6 and 7 to $215.
Okay, thank you. So Councillor Petty-Weber has moved $215 per week on Woodville, Pahiatua and Ikitahuna 1 bedroom units, seconded by Councillor Chase. All those in favour, please say aye. So Councillor Wards, Councillor Petty-Weber, Councillor Chase, Councillor Wallace. Those against? Councillor Gilmore and Councillor Franklin. The motion has passed. Thank you, councillors. Discussing pensioner housing has never, ever been easy. But I do thank you for your care and passion, for your deep thought that has gone into this. But not only that, when you go out into the community, we're also talking to these same people that are involved. So Fontaine, and to your team, thank you very much for the in-depth work that you have done on this one. We know you've worked hard, and it has been hard coming to these decisions as well. Can I just check, do we need a separate motion, Ellie, to discuss the 10% increase so that those conversations can go on the record so that people do know where they are going forward?
I'm not sure that that's needed at this
stage. Okay.
It's all
okay.
Yeah.
Right, just make sure that we make that sure that that is clear for everybody. Right.
We do the wrap up because we've taken each of those unit prices separately.
Right, back to the rest. Okay, so the recommendation on page 4, 1.1, that the report from the Finance Manager dated the 25th of March 2025 concerning the adoption of Council's consultation document and supporting information for the annual plan 2025 be received. That the Tararua District Council approves the proposed pensioner fees and charges for the 25-26 financial year. Yep, Councillor Gilmore.
Sorry, Your Worship. I think we've already dealt with 1.2, so I'd rather that not be in the motion, otherwise I'll have to vote against the whole motion. So 1.2 has been decided, is my understanding.
That's the way I took it, but Ellie, I'll just go to Ellie because that was her request.
We took each fee separately, but none of the motions included that we approved the pensioner housing fee. I suppose it could be inferred and I could include it in the wording.
Could I ask
for each one.
If that's okay, then, Your Worship, if we could just do 1.2 separately, and then I can vote against that, and then I can vote for the rest of it in bulk. That might be your way of doing it.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Gilmore, happy with that. Right, the recommendation on page 4, 1.1, can I have somebody move that we receive the consultation document and supporting information? Move Councillor Gilmore, seconded Councillor Wallace. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Checking. Right, 1.2, that the Tararua District Council approves the proposed pensioner housing fees and charges for the 25-26 financial year. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Chase, seconded Councillor Wards. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Councillor Gilmore and Councillor Franklin to be recorded. Thank you. That the Tararua District Council 1.3 approves the proposed amendment to the self-imposed rate cap to reflect. Right, that's fine.
Consultation document and delegation.
So 1.4 and 1.5 will take that the consultation document and supporting information include the draft annual plan 25-26 and fees and charges schedule for 25-26 financial year as amended to include the fees set in resolution 1.1. In the resolution, we've removed 1.2 from that. Be adopted for consultation with the community. That the Chief Executive be delegated authority to make any minor amendments, draft consultation document and supporting information prior to finalisation for consultation with the community. Moved Councillor Wards, seconded Councillor Wallace. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. And the note and key part here is that this has been adopted for consultation. So please, that might encourage people to be involved in that consultation process. Thank you, councillors. Thank you, Fontaine, again for your work and for your patience here. There is nothing easy in a cost of living crisis for anybody, and that's what makes these decisions around the table so tough. So I do thank you and all the staff for their incredible amount of work that's been put into this consultation document. People can be assured that actually we've looked at everything that we could to bring this rates increase down, right down to the heavy debate that you've just seen on pensioner housing. So thank you very much for everyone's efforts throughout the annual plan process. Fontaine.
Thank you.
Right, and with that, and thank you, Ellie, for everything today. We'll close with our district whakatawaiki. Let the winds of the Ruahine and Tararua give you strength. Let the waters of the Manawatu nourish you. For we are the Pounamu of Te Tāpiri Nui o Whātonga. Kia ora.